Like there are studies done on the quads, like what is the optimal amount of sets for your quads, and it's something like 50 working sets per week. Look, the family ranks above the business. It just does. Like if the business ever got in the way of the family, the business would have to change. Olympic fitness in Mitcham, I still remember it, and Mum took me there. And I remember there was all these bodybuilding posters on the wall, and I'd never seen bodybuilders before in my life. And I remember looking at them going, wow, that's amazing. And then like pointing them out to Mum, like, look at this guy. And Mum going, that's disgusting. Like, they're gross. But what it does do is it teaches your body how to move as a synchronized unit. You learn how to brace and control the posture of the spine, and you learn how to incorporate a whole lot of body parts at once. And I think that has merit from an injury prevention standpoint. So I think a lot of people are going more too far towards isolated movements, and they're ignoring those pre-weight meat and potato movements. So
he's Team Goble, humble head team coach. He's Team Goble posing bikini, and all athletes are thriving in them. Okay, maybe not the boys. He's gym dad to 3 gym daughters. Well, that's what he posted. He wants the Team Goble community to embrace and hug each other. He's the factual man that whether you win or lose, let's say learn, life doesn't change. Please help me welcome head coach, owner of Team Goble, and not the boxer of his family, Scott Goble. How are you, buddy?
I'm very well, thanks, Steve. Thank you for the introduction. You've covered a lot there, and probably a few points we should touch on straight off the bat. But I appreciate the kind words. Well, I've only got two little gym daughters at the moment, although I have probably another 50 gym daughters that I coach, which call me Gym Dad and definitely refer to me as that. And I initially rebelled against that name. I was not a fan of Gym Dad, but I have
said... Is that because it made you feel old?
Yes, that was the primary reason. But due to the fact that I am old enough to be the father of many of my clients, it's probably quite appropriate. And it turns out it's a fairly fit moniker, I think, for what I do. Keeping the girls calm, keeping them on the right path, and just sort of helping guide them through life, I suppose.
No, I saw that. I think it was a competition in Japan, and I've got a question for that. So I'll get to the competition in Japan. But like I said, thank you for joining us. So I'm going to start off with I looked at your own personal IG, Instagram, and you don't do much there, mate. You're seemingly private, but there is a point that you seem to, the message you send out, and what you send out is family, your wife and everything around you in your home, and your I guess your parents or whatever it might be. What I've seen, the less is more is what you've definitely posted. I think it was very clear where you stand in relation to your life. So let's talk about August 24th post that you said, happy 9th anniversary to Tanya Goble, the matriarch, the champion, wife, mother, boxer of the family. Thanks for adding another year to the streak and the best years of your life. Very much look forward to the big year we have coming. So tell us about family, matriarchs, and the importance of that, and the best year coming. Tell us all that.
Oh, look, everyone is successful in their life if they have the support behind them. And my wife is very, very supportive and very, very understanding of my career. So I do invest a lot of time in my career, and she really does hold down the fort at home. I actually don't know how to use the washing machine, which is probably a source of great shame, or it should be, but it's not. It's actually a source of pride.
Only when shit hits the fan, you will learn the washing machine. Trust me.
Yeah,
if you haven't learnt it yet, shit hasn't hit the fan yet.
That's exactly right. So I'm very, very happy that shit hasn't hit the fan. But no, she looks after me as well as the kids. Mm-hmm. She has her own life and her own interests, and I do my best to try and support her as well. But yeah, it is the family side of it. I do try and keep quite separate to the business side of it. I do see them as two completely separate entities, and look, the family ranks above the business. It just does. Like if the business ever got in the way of the family, the business would have to change, not the other way around. So I do value that immensely. I value my wife's support and her role within our family circle a great deal, because she allows me to do what I do, and that is pursue a career that I love and I'm very passionate about, and I can invest big hours into it as a result.
Yeah, there is a saying, obviously, behind every great or strong man, there's a great and strong woman. But I also am very much a believer of the matriarch, and I'll tell you why. The matriarch is a person, do you know, I don't think any guy can make a home feel like a home. I don't think so, because we just can't do it. It's not in our DNA. We can try, we can push as much as we like, but we don't have that warmth about us to light a candle or that. Yeah, just something about the home. You know what I mean? And I think it's going to be a little bit off topic, and we want to go a bit off topic, but I don't think women understand what the matriarch means. She can sit back and be quiet. She's the matriarch. She's watching the dinner table. She's watching the family functions. It's something about her that she knows how to let people grow, but, you know, just stay in control. Everyone looks, you know what I mean? I don't know, but there's a special place for the matriarch. And I think families need that.
Oh, look, I agree. And she is most definitely the matriarch, and she is most definitely running the show. There's no illusions about that in my household. So, you know, she has free reign to do what needs to be done, and she does a much better job than I ever would. So very, very grateful for her and the dinners that we provided on a nightly basis. And there's no qualms about it. Like, we probably have fallen into some fairly old school stereotypical roles in our household, but I think it's just the way both of us like it. I don't think it's, you know, forced upon her, and it's certainly not forced upon me to mow the lawn and take the garbage out or anything like that. You know, like, it's just, we've assumed those roles. It seems to work for us, and you know, it's a functional household as a result.
I think what you guys probably do around all that is what probably makes it work even better. So at the end of the day, we can all spoil the party, but you guys don't seem to spoil the party. But is she a boxer?
Yeah, she's done one competitive fight. Yeah,
that explains it, mate. That explains it.
Yeah. So which was honestly the single most exciting sporting event I've ever attended in my life, watching my wife get in the ring and beat the shit out of another woman. I screamed myself hoarse. I've never had so much fun in my life. So yeah, very proud of that. Like, I think that's a massive accomplishment. I tell my clients that, you know, it's a big accomplishment getting on a stage and posing in front of hundreds of people. I think it's an even bigger deal getting in a ring and going into combat with another individual in front of hundreds of people. So I was very, very proud of her for that. Like, and I think it was great for her as well, because she thought of it as a bit of a selfish pursuit. And there were some dinners that I actually cooked in that time because she was off training and everything else. And obviously the kids weren't impressed with the food I put on the table, but she was very, very grateful for that time. And I actually got to give back to her. So it was awesome to see.
Are you fat up or fed up? Tired of boring food? We just cooked this from our What Should I Eat cookbook. It's also on an ebook, making it more affordable for you. So,
get your copy at threeog.shop.
Yeah. No. Look, I've got a few questions about competing, but now that you say it and getting in the boxing ring, I mean, look, come on, think about it. You're out there on your trunks showing off, posing. She's about to be punched in the face. I think there's a massive difference there.
So, absolutely, there is.
He's under attack.
Yes.
So, you know what? Well done, Tanya.
Yeah.
All right, so you were quite a beefed up fellow when you met her. What were you weighing at the time? What has been your biggest weight, your lightest weight, and what are you now? What are you weighing now?
Sure. When I met her, I probably was floating around the 130 something mark. Like that's where I spent most of my competitive career. I was in the 130s.
How tall are you, by the way? I'm asking.
Just over 6 foot tall.
Okay.
I reached
big. Wow, 130 or 6 foot. Go on.
Yeah, I reached a peak weight of 141 kilos. So yeah, I was with Tanya at the time. We actually traveled to America when I was that peak weight, and I was quite dysfunctional. It was fun to be big and lift enormous weights, but I remember we had to call a taxi because I couldn't walk any further in LA because I was starting to get foot cramps and calf cramps and things of that nature in the heat. So I was quite a dysfunctional human being from an athletic perspective, but I was huge. I loved it. And probably the lightest I've been since I've known her, I might have dieted down to a low point of just under 110 kilos. And right now I sort of just hang around the 110 kilo mark.
Okay. And is this the ideal weight? Like, I mean, I'll give you an example. I'm 54 and my ideal weight used to be 84, 85 kilos. I'm 5'10", 5'11". Man, I reached 107 recently. I've done that before when I was 40 and I lost it by mistake. I don't know how it happened. I mean, I know how it happened, but I'm struggling, man. I've lost 10 kilos, but the motherfucker won't move. And I'm walking. I'm fucking weighing my food. You name it, I'm doing it. But what is it? I think when we get older, if it's hard to always like I said, I'm trying to get to 85. That's what I want to get to. I think that's going to be the ideal weight, but it's challenging, isn't it? It's just this weight thing's challenging.
Yeah, look, it is, and sometimes it's just not worth the effort. Like, I mean, that's the reality of it. I mean, I've got clients that would love to be shredded year round, and they have the physical tools to do so. But what's the point if you're going to be miserable and thinking about food constantly and low in energy and everything else? So sometimes, I mean, what's the ideal weight? It depends what you value more, the aesthetic, the functional, you know, the energy, the cognitive function, all these things come into it. So but for me, 110 kilo feels good. You know, I feel relatively strong. I feel relatively energetic. I sleep well at night. It's a comfortable weight that I can easily maintain just eating completely intuitively and not tracking or anything like that. So it works for me, and I'm just happy sitting around here. It's good enough that I look like I know what I'm doing in the gym, so people will tell me or will pay me to tell them what to do in the gym. So I think that's my primary goal.
I think that's most important. I always used to say, and I apologize to any aerobics teacher, but when I saw an aerobics teacher that just didn't look fit or didn't look the shape, I go, why would I sit in front of apologize in front of that? And guy, why would you be coached by someone that you didn't feel necessarily had the goods themselves? But sometimes there is the smarts and intelligence. I understand that too, because sometimes the body, you know, is a camouflage or, you know, is not really the truth. But like I said, you definitely need to be representing yourself well and clients to feel confident around you.
Yeah, I think so. And you're absolutely right. Like, it is not the be all and end all. There are some very, very brilliant people that would probably be excellent coaches that don't look the part for whatever reason. And I remember when I was at university studying exercise physiology, the professors were skinny little rakes. They really were, because they were spending the entire time in the lab analyzing results, and just, you know, that was their passion, the accumulation of knowledge, more so than the application of that knowledge. And they push the sport and us as individuals further as well. So, yeah, I get it both ways, but I do think it does, imbue a little bit of faith into the athletes when you look like you know what you're talking about.
Hey guys, welcome Bondi Beach. Thank you everyone for supporting us on Muscle Talks podcast. What I'd really like is for you guys to hit the subscribe button. Why hit the subscribe button? It just lets us get a bigger reach, a bigger audience, and also some of the greatest guests. You've probably already seen we've had a few Olympians on, and we're striving to actually get right up there on the 1, 2s, and 3s. Yes, possibly even C-Bum on here. So guys, subscribe, come on a journey with us with Muscle Talks. Now let's get back to the podcast.
No, I'm in agreement. Okay, another post, 25th of October. And you know, we'll delve a little bit into this. Your post about your dad's passing, 9th of October, obviously meant a lot to you, and this is why I bring it up. His upbringing, raising you guys, you commenting on, you holding up your traditions and hopefully leaving the next generation as a positive one. It means a lot to you. Tell me about like your dad, and tell me about that post, and obviously what he meant to you, but also your role now. It's like you've taken the reins, and I understand that, and I'll maybe add a little bit to that too. So go ahead.
Sure. Yeah. Well, my dad, I mean, obviously an incredibly influential role model. Like, he's the only dad I've had, and I'm the only son he had. So it's a role of immense significance no matter what. But I've assumed a lot of the character traits of my dad. I think he was a fairly I think he was a fairly strong individual that was probably not as emotive as most, but that's just the old school mentality, I think, of masculinity back in the day. I'm probably far more emotive with my children than he was with me, but he was just a role model. Like, he was a man that spoke through actions more so than words, and he was just a hard worker and just very dedicated and just would do anything for anyone. So if I ever needed anything from my dad, he was a particularly amazing handyman. It was just like, Dad, I need this, no problem. Like, it was done. Like, whatever you needed, it could be fixed. And that's sort of how he displayed his love and everything else. But he was a very, kind man, very giving man, and yeah, it played a massive, massive role in my life. And I would like to think that as a result, I will always be there for my children, and I will always, try and give them exactly what they need, even though I can't fix shit, to be honest. But I don't know. Yeah, it's just, what do you say? It's the only major figure in my life that has passed away. And while he was 94, so it shouldn't have come as a surprise, it still came as an enormous surprise to me for some reason. Like, I just expected him to be there forever. It was a very interesting time in my life because it happened the day of the Sydney IFBB show. So I got well, he was passing away for 2 weeks. Like, he started to go down 2 weeks prior to that, ironically at the Perth IFBB show. This is how I map my life out. It's based on bodybuilding seasons. And so this is the most chaotic and hectic time of the year for me from a business standpoint. And I found myself like unbelievably stressed because I was trying to navigate that. I was trying to navigate my mother. I was the only sibling based in Melbourne. So I was talking to the doctors, holding mum's hand, getting information, passing it on to the other siblings, trying to get everyone to, coordinate and things like that, while also trying to remain on top of my coaching, which was, like I said, the busiest time of the year. And then he passed away on the day of the Sydney show, and then I gave a eulogy at his funeral the day prior to leaving to the national show. So it was the craziest month of my life, that September into October period. And to a degree, I looked at it, I completely separated the two things. I had the family issues and I had the bodybuilding issues, and I was trying not to let one interfere with the other. And to the point where none of my clients knew about it. Like, absolutely none of my clients knew about it until Nationals was over and everything had settled down, because I didn't want this experience of mine to detract from their experience. I didn't want them to hold back on communication because they knew what I was going through. So I kind of took it as a professional challenge in that I was trying to maintain the exact same level of service, be just as attentive to the clients, and yet be far more attentive to the family's requirements and needs at that time as well. So yeah, many sleepless nights, it was a tough month, but one that I'm glad I got through, and I think I managed to hold up both ends of the deal and support the family and the clients at the same time. So a very interesting month of October.
Well, I think, you said something about experiencing someone so close passing. I mean, you're not prepared for that. So no. I guess you're trying to be a professional. And I think at the end of the day, it was a test for you. And at the end of the day, you knew the test wasn't about opening up. It was the test about getting through this in the best way possible to respect your dad. And I think you probably also knew your dad wanted the show to go on in some ways. I'm thinking he's thinking, this guy's busy. My son's busy. I want him to succeed. I'm here. Go do your shit. So I guess that's kind of like what I imagine your dad would have wanted and what kind of a character he was. The show must go on. You've got to go work it, boy.
You're 100% correct. Like, he did not want a fuss to be made about his passing. Like, he knew he was going over the last couple of weeks, and he was telling me, no, go to the shows. You'll be fine. I'll be fine, whatever. No, absolutely, that is the case. He would have wanted me to carry on and not make a big scene and not, be an emotional mess or anything like that, and stay strong and do what needs to be done. So, because that's what he did his whole life. So, spot on.
No, my mum was the same. She was very similar. So, like I said, I just wanted to bring it up. And I guess us going forward as dads as well, because I'm a dad as well. What I've realized is these people lay foundations for us. It's about us now building something even stronger. I mean, we can't like, it's not laying another foundation, it's building on top of that foundation, so the kids beyond have something even stronger to work with. So our job is to build, I guess, on top of the foundation they gave us. It's a strong one, we respect it, and hopefully that's where we should be building. We should just keep building on top of those foundations.
Absolutely, but although I am raising the next generation of completely entitled little brats at the moment, I don't know. I'm not quite sure that the goal of providing them everything they need is necessarily a good one, because apparently they need 1,000 stuffed toys. At the moment.
How old are your kids? How old are your kids?
They're still very young, 3.5 and 5.5.
Oh, well, I've got a 20-year-old and a 17-year-old. And it gets better.
Yeah, everyone says that.
It gets better, man. And you know what? You get it. You get it when they don't answer your calls and they only call you when you want something. But to be honest, they can want as much from me as possible. I'm ready. It's endless scabs. Come and get me. So I don't care. Come, I don't care. I do not care. Because if I haven't done what I needed to do in relation to, besides hard work, if I haven't had a good time in life, I haven't gone out enough, I haven't sport myself enough, well, that's fucking my fault. But they're coming along, we're going to party. And I'm just like, yeah, let's do it. What are we doing? Wait, oh, yep, right. No. I'll tell you a funny story. My son broke my window at the house. Where was I? I was in Melbourne somewhere. And he said, Dad, I said, yeah, what's up? He goes, I just broke the window. And I said, which one? He goes, the front one. I go, well, you're kicking up against the wall. He goes, yeah. I go, you know what? You've kicked about 100 times on that wall and you've never broken a window. I go, I guess it's okay, man. You broke it. We'll fix it. Fuck it. My dad would have given me a hiding. Having said that, a week later, he broke a window again. And I said to him, what happened? He goes, same thing. I said, listen, I've broken 2 windows too. Just don't go for a fucking PB. All right, let's leave it equal. I've broken 2 windows. Can we just stop there? So we stopped. So we haven't broken any more windows. So you're going to be challenged. It's how you approach it, which is most important, I always believe. But it is a bit of their time. And I think as adults, if we keep wanting to be selfishly believing that it's ours, us, me, you're just going to have a battle with them. I still have a great time. I ride motorcycles, but like I said, when it comes to them, it's party time.
Nice.
Yeah. All right. Tell me about that guy, number 331, blue trunks, looking awesome. Tell us, when was that comp, that post, what it means to you, because it's in your personal one, and the only comp post on your IG. So go ahead.
Yeah, that's because when I started the account, you had to have a mandatory photo. So that was the photo that went up. Otherwise there probably wouldn't be a single post about me on there. But that was the 2014, I think it was the FitX Pro qualifying. That was probably the best ever look that I achieved. I was just a little bit unfortunate to run up against Josh Lenartowicz that day.
I'm going to mention him too, yes.
Yeah, before he was Josh Lenartowicz, he was just some big kid that trained out at Derrimut, and I was probably a much better known and more accomplished amateur bodybuilder than him. So I went into that show expecting to win that, and I saw
1
Josh,
point. One point. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I scored at 1 point. Like, it was out of a panel of 7 judges, he got 6 votes and I got 1. But I'm still clinging to that one.
Yeah, I know you've mentioned it, so I'm going to bring it up.
Yeah, we like to mention it at every possible opportunity. And yeah, look, it was a great showing for me in terms of it was an all-time personal best. But Josh was obviously a superior bodybuilder and went on to great things. So it's quite an honor, like across the course of my career, I take as much pride in the losses as the wins, to be honest. Like I lost to Justin Wessels a few times, lost to Luke Shembry, lost to Josh Lenartowicz. I lost to some good competitors, and I don't mind that. Like, it was an honor to share the stage with them. And it's funny how at the time, I was devastated. Like, I went into that, I expected to win. I wanted to win. I'd committed, a more dedicated off season, a better pre-contest than ever before. I knew it was at my lifetime best, thought it was my time. At the time, it was quite upsetting. But when I look back on it, I feel zero regret, negative emotions whatsoever. Like, it's all just pride. So it's funny how, the passage of time changes your perspective on things like that.
Yeah. you know, yeah, I can resonate what you're saying, because win or lose, you fucking did it. So that's many don't. You looked amazing. You pedaled to the metal. You tried your best, and the fact is, you acted. You did it. That's the difference between the talk and the actions. And the thing is, you've got pictures, moments, and that's kind of how I look at things myself. I mean, my dad, he was a bit of a role model, because he used to tell me what he could have done. And one day, and it's true, you'll never hear me say what I could have done. Every time I'm making a decision, I always go, am I going to say what I could have done? I say, fuck, I'll do it, mate. So I just go and do it. So definitely, yeah, like you said, I mean, it's a great photo, man. You look really good in it. I just thought, well, that's the only one you've put up there, so let's ask why. And I guess we'll get to that one point in him having 6. All right, Team Goble. Unbeknown to you, you have been preparing seemingly all your entire life for this role. So tell us about your role.
Well, look, I mean, I have been preparing for this role my entire life. I didn't realize it at the time, but I fell in love with bodybuilding when I was 14, and I devoured as much information on it as I possibly could. You know, a lot of that information was inaccurate and just obtained through Muscle Builder magazine and Flex magazine and Ironman magazine and all that sort of stuff. But you know, it led me down the educational pathway. I studied exercise physiology at university because that was what I was interested in, not because it led to a career. It's just that I was fascinated by it, and I wanted to utilize that to become a better bodybuilder. Tell me,
let's, because you're going through all my questions, which is good, because we'll stop each point. Exercise physiology, tell us what that is.
Well, it is just basically the study of the human body and how it moves and how it acts and how it responds to exercise.
You were quite academic at school. You were a good student, like you were.
I was a good student in the subjects that I found interesting.
Okay, yeah.
And the subjects that I didn't find interesting, I was a very average student. Yeah, so I did very well in PE and biology and that sort of stuff, and pretty average in mathematics and whatever else, because it was just, I didn't see any practical application for it. And it was the same in university. We had some health promotion components, some airy-fairy stuff where I'd got the pass, and then in physiology and anatomy and biomechanics, I was always a high distinction or whatever. I say, yes, when I apply myself, there's something there. But but yeah, it was, I don't know, it was I guess I'm very grateful for the education, because it lays a foundation of knowledge upon which you can build. Like, if you don't understand the very fundamentals, it's hard to get into the minutiae and the real detailed stuff. So I think it was a great thing from a coaching perspective to have that education, but it literally leads to zero career path. Like, you spend 3 years and a whole lot of money to basically be an overqualified personal trainer.
You could have gone to AIF or FAI and done it. But the thing is, look, I did the FAI. I did it at St. Leonard's. I'm Greek background. You've got to have 3 jobs, 3 careers. You can't just have one. So I was actually a network engineer, a personal trainer, and I started off as a kitchen hand, then a barista, waiter, then a bouncer. Like, it was just, why? Because we love property. So I wanted to buy into property. So, but the personal training part, I never really pushed. And the reason I did it was, this is the funny bit, I felt like it was going to take the fun away. I felt like this place I don't talk to really anyone. I mean, there's some gym bros, and the gym was predominantly guys. It was not many females back in our day. I mean, God's sake, a girl walked in and she'd walk out 5 minutes later thinking even she was interrogated just by us looking at her. She was like, what happened there? These guys couldn't stop looking at me. We're like, who's that? You know what I mean? And not that she was wearing anything skimpy. It was the big baggy tracksuits we all wore. But we just thought, wow. So, exercise physiology, I mean, and I do have to say, as outside looking in, your credentials mean a lot to me, though. I look at it like, if I had to choose, I would, besides you being the science base and, degrees, and you've got the body to match it, I give you that much. But I do look at it like, I think I can trust you more. Because at the moment, I'm feeling like everybody's becoming a personal trainer.
Yeah, look, I think it does lend some credibility to the role for sure. And like I said, I think it does give me the ability to figure things out. Whereas, you know, like I can see through bullshit more because I've got the foundational knowledge in place. So it was valuable, and I'm grateful for it. It did probably hold me back to a degree because I was very much the staunch science guy in the beginning and would completely disregard psychological aspects of the game, behavioral aspects of the game. And I think I was not a very good coach when I started because I was like, this is how you do it. This is the best way to do it. Well, I can't do it because of this, and this. Well, you're shit then, and you probably shouldn't bodybuild. You know, like I just had no real empathy or understanding for anything outside of optimizing everything possible. And I still see that within the industry at the moment, the optimal crowd. But the reality is you can only do so many things optimally when you don't have the optimal lifestyle. You know, like if you do have external stress and other responsibilities and you know, might not necessarily be able to sleep 8 hours a night or whatever you got going on, you need to have more tools in your toolkit than the optimal approach. You need to be able to sort of scale it back and figure out what is the best approach for this individual given their circumstances and their tendencies and their psychological requirements and everything else. So it was both a blessing and a detriment initially when I first started. I had to learn a whole other aspect in the realm of sort of psychology and behavior and everything else. So it's still, I'm very, very grateful for that education. I'm glad I did it.
Well, let me tell you, I mean, I got no degrees, right? But what I'll say is this. I've got a cousin, he's a doctor, actually, and he also played rugby league and captain Australia. But, his name's George Paponis. I don't know if you've ever heard of the name, but he's a doctor too, right? And but the funniest thing is this. I mean, he is pretty smart, and he's earning some good dollars. But if I sold him the pharmaceutical stuff as a salesman, I'd be on more money than him. So at the end of the day, what I'm trying to say to you is, it's not necessarily what we do with, it's not necessarily the degree, it's what we do with a degree and what we do to make it work within society itself. At the end of the day, I was reading something that we're all kind of salesmen in a way. And I think we've got to learn, and also, you know yourself, you're in business. And to be honest, you've got to be business smart. You've got to be sales smart. You've got to be cash flow smart. You've got to be smart. Business is a world of its own, and it doesn't matter what you do at university. It doesn't mean you're ready for business. Maybe you're ready for employment. Maybe you're ready for whatever, but you're not ready. Business is you either got it or you don't. Hence why there's only 5% of businesses that succeed every year. The fact is that people take it lightly, and what they don't understand is that in business, it's what you don't see. It's things behind the scenes. You know what I mean?
100%. I've had to upskill in those areas as well. But I like the point that everyone has to be a salesman. I am definitely a salesman. But I sell the programs and the diets. I literally do it, and I know I do it. And I sell it to different people in different ways based on what I think they need to hear. But you need to get your clientele to buy in to what you're asking them to do, and the best way to do that is to sell it to them. So I see that all the time, and yes, on the business front, I'm sort of getting there. That was probably not something a natural passion of mine, and I was just like, oh wow, I'm actually making money from this bodybuilding thing. It's quite remarkable. I can support myself. I can support my family, but then you get a little bit more ambitious and try and refine things and make it a more profitable, or you better earn per minute. Improve your systems, improve your marketing, whatever it may be. Absolutely. So you touched on a very important part of being a bodybuilding coach. You do have to sell, and you do have to understand business. Otherwise, you're not going to make it.
Well, and something again, talking about business, you have to have a love affair with it. See, I love bodybuilding, I do, but I love business. Now, don't ask me why, because it's hard. But I just realized I can't fucking work for anyone, and I respect that person that's got the business. But I just can't. And I believe they can't work with me. I actually believe they can't work with me. So once I've realized, I've got an ex-wife, but she said to me, finally, Steve, you've realized no one can work with you. I said, yeah, no one can work with me. But I think when I look around in this bodybuilding industry, in this world, I don't think people understanding business, meaning, hear me out, some do, like got gyms, got this, got that, got this, got that. But in business, you've got to learn to diversify and invest your money. So when there is tough times in the business, you've got some investments that the business has invested. And I'm making it like a business coaching thing. But what I'm saying is, if you're doing well, then you need to start looking at making the business become an investor. So you're protecting the business, and you can utilize that money back into the business and new equipment, make it grow, make it this, make it that. So like I said, we have to, like yourself and all of us, and this podcast too, we have to understand we love doing it, but fuck, it also needs to kind of fund us. And how do we fund it? How do we become businessmen in this and make it work? And I think you're doing it, because I'm getting a lot of good feedback about who you are and what you're doing. And tell us about, firstly, that 14-year-old guy that picked up the weights. What did you first do, and what was the fascination about Arnold Schwarzenegger?
I could not tell you what my fascination with muscle was, but it's been there since the beginning of time. I remember my dad hurt his back when I was very young. I don't know how old I was, 7 years old or something like that. And he had been recommended some exercise and he needed some ankle weights. And we went to Olympic Fitness in Mitcham. I still remember it. And Mum took me there. And I remember there was all these bodybuilding posters on the wall. And I'd never seen bodybuilders before in my life. And I remember looking at them going, wow, that's amazing. And like pointing him out to Mum, like, look at this guy. And Mum going, that's disgusting. Like, they're gross. Why would anyone want to look like that? And, when you're like 7 years old, you generally agree with your parents. Like, you're pretty receptive. If they say it's disgusting, you might think it's disgusting. But I remember just thinking, no, that's awesome. I think that looks incredible, And so I was just always fascinated with muscle, and Arnold Schwarzenegger was the most visible, whether it's through movies or magazines or whatever it was back then.
He was the good poster boy, wasn't he?
Yeah, and then, not long after that, it was Jean-Claude Van Damme. He had a fair bit of muscle in Kickboxer and everything else. And
Rocky did amazing in Rocky 3, when he was the Mr. T part where he came in shredded.
Yep.
He went like, what the fuck? Like Rocky, I think Rocky was the bit that really mesmerized. I think still Arnold was unattainable to me in my head. But when I saw Rocky, Sylvester Stallone, I went, check the obliques out. Look at the abs on this guy. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I've drunk a few raw eggs in my time as well. So I was always fascinated with muscle, and it became apparent to me that the way to build muscle was to lift weights. So I badgered my parents for a bench press and some dumbbells and barbells, and that was set up in the sort of second living area, a very obtrusive set up there, which was getting in the way of everyone. But I would lift on a regular basis, and then I got a gym membership, and that's when it started, and it never ever stopped. Like, I had lots of little fads in my life, got into martial art periodically, played a bit of basketball, tennis, whatever, played all these other sports, tried to learn a musical instrument, and all those things just dropped off. But the resistance training was always there, and it was probably partly because of the passion for it, but there was also a component of, I guess, I got better results than my friends that started training at the same time. So there was probably a little bit of a natural a little genetic potential under the surface there. So I started to get bigger and stronger than my friends. And that, when you're 14 years old, you think you're all that, but you're a complete insecure mess as a general rule. So the fact that you're actually getting some attention and some respect from, your fellow, guys at high school, and maybe even one of the, cool girls asked you about something they heard you did when you bench press the big weights in PE or something like that. And you're like, oh, wow, I'm getting noticed here. It fed the ego, and it just spiraled from there. So it never ever stopped.
How old are you?
47.
Oh, all right, 47. That's good. So you were 47. Obviously, 47 is different. I'm just trying to work this all out, because I remember the gym being, and we'd wear, I don't know if it was 7 years later, I'm sure it was still, that we went to the gym. I don't know about you, but we never revealed anything. Everything was revealed in the bathrooms. In other words, we all wore sloppy Joes due summer, daggy fucking tracksuits. I don't think we had a dress code. Anything that looked ragged and wrecked, and you felt like you could see a little bit through that tracksuit, you turned up. You knew that if you didn't walk out of that gym sweating your ass off and feeling like you can't even take the keys out of the pocket, it wasn't like a session, was it? It was just a destroy yourself sessions. We fucking didn't have music going. Nothing was going on. We just Just went in there to destroy.
Absolutely, yeah. No, those early day workouts, there was no rhyme nor reason for what we were doing, but we were definitely going hard. And that was sort of the badge of honor. It was like, who could go harder? Like, especially when you're training with your mates around that age, it was sort of like, you're going to try and bury them and make them quit. That was the objective as much as anything. And I had some lunatic mates that wouldn't quit, and I wouldn't quit. And as a result, we'd, barely be able to walk the next day, or you'd train biceps with, 20 plus sets, and you wouldn't be able to straighten your arm the next day and all that sort of stuff. And you wore that as a badge of honor, like it was great.
Man. And then they'd go, how about the bit where you'd go, mate, I need you to spot me. And you couldn't even get the first one up. Yeah. But you fucking did it. You go, oh, how many do you want to get in? Oh, 8. Fuck, you can't even get the first one up, but you still went for it, man. We're going for 6, man. We're going for 6. Now someone would say to you, give up, bro. But no, mate. There's no give up. We're going to 6, even if you're helping me. But it was, and that's, I think, today's kids, and including my son, that I don't think anyone taught us anything. My dad didn't show me how to mow the lawn. No one taught me how to spot. No one gave me a spotting instructions. Like, we just spotted each other. It was a funny place, man. It was a tough place. You know what I mean? It was a tough place. You had to go in there with a bit of attitude, a bit of swagger, and you definitely were hoping that you were the one groaning the most at one stage. You know what I mean? Like, and it was about, hey, Scott's going to the bathroom, man. He's going to take off his top. Let's go. Let's all go and check him out. So it's all gone. I mean, I don't know. I mean, the sport is great. I love the sport, and I love what I'm seeing from the sport. But it was crazy, man. It was crazy. Like I said, that spotting, can't even get the first one up. But let's go. Let's keep going.
Yeah, that was our first exercise when we went to the gym. Me and my mates. It was 1 rep max bench press, no warm up. No warm up whatsoever. You just loaded it up with like an extra 5 kilos from the last time you went in there.
Yeah,
you did one rep max on the bench. Like,
and it was about breaking records, wasn't it? We always PB'd, always PB. Fucking crazy. So, exercise physiology. What did you want to do when you finished university? Did you want to be a PE teacher? What did you want to be?
No, I had no idea what I wanted to be, to be honest with you. I kind of fantasized about being a strength and conditioning coach for like a sports team or something like that. That was probably the goal. Never really achieved that. I realized that was just probably given to ex-footy players and ex-basketball players, and not really people with actual qualifications. But so I just ended up working and bouncing around the fitness industry, working in gyms just as an instructor, managing gyms, selling gym equipment. I've been within the fitness industry, whether it's with supplements, gym equipment, or in the gyms themselves ever since.
Okay, so tell us about devouring every single muscle and fitness magazine and Flex magazine, becoming the expert at bro arts. What now? Can you tell us what is bro arts? What's bro arts?
Well, it's just probably a bodybuilding tradition that has no real merit in science. And there were a lot of those back in the day, and I used to espouse many things about not eating carbohydrates after a certain time at night and all sorts of stuff like that. But I don't know. There was a lot of rubbish in those old Weeder magazines, to be honest. The Weeder principles, the Weeder flushing principle, or whatever it was, partial rep principle. He just put his name to absolutely everything. I used to say, you want to bring out the striations in your inner chest, you need to do cable crossovers, and you just tension in the contracted position. Absolute rubbish, of course, but Arnold said it, so I would say it. That's the bro arts.
It is like that. I tell you what, I was watching a podcast with Flex Wheeler. No, Flex Lewis. No, not Flex Wheeler, not Flex Wheeler. Sorry, Sean Ray.
Yep.
Because he was massive in the magazines, and let me tell you what, he never won the Olympia, but he was marketing 101, and I learned from him, he marketed himself like he was a big thing. So in other words, he was trying to say is sometimes Michael Jackson or Donald Trump will tell the media they're turning up, so the media would cause the hype. Sean Ray would let people know, send brochures out and create events on his own for people to turn up to. So he was a very good businessman in the game, and he had a great relationship with Wider himself, and it was a handshake. And Wider honored that all his life, sending him paychecks on time, every time. But what I'm trying to say is, I don't think anybody realizes that you don't really have to, like, look at it now. Excuse me. Look at all the Olympians now. I mean, some of the guys, like, look at Arnold. Arnold did an amazing job, right? But when you look at, like, at the moment, Jay Cutler's doing an amazing job. You know, Jay Cutler. What I've realized is, if you don't turn up to events, you don't turn up to openings, you don't turn up physically for free, you don't hand out cards, you're not going to make it in the industry in relation to the business part. You know, these guys understand entertainment. This is an entertainment industry where you've got to entertain the fans. So having said that, I can understand where, like, Flex magazines and these guys, that some of them really got front and center and really knew that this is where the business was. And I can understand why you fell in love with all these magazines and the people that are on there.
Yeah, well, they also portrayed a false reality, to be honest with you. They actually portrayed these bodybuilders as superstars, and they would have them pose in Ferraris and Lamborghinis when really they were destitute and living out of some little, you know, ramshackle apartment in Venice Beach and, you know, barely getting by. But
you're still doing it, mate. Still doing it.
Yeah, still doing it. Yeah, but it was amazing how they were portrayed, and it sold a very glamorous lifestyle as well, and it was appealing. But, you know, there's only a very small percentage of bodybuilders now and back then that are exclusively making their money from bodybuilding. Like you said, it's those with a real business acumen that go on to kick some, you know, proper financial goals.
Yeah, it is the business acumen. Trust me, it is that. What was the post-grad study you did? You did a post-grad, you said. What was grad?
Yeah, it was in advanced exercise physiology, yeah. But I didn't even complete that post-grad study. I went into it, but I was full-time employed at the time, and I was more interested in making money than I was pursuing the further education, to be honest.
Okay, and tell us about no bodybuilding coaches back there, and there were far and few personal trainers. Tell us about that era.
Yeah, look, it was very rare to have a personal trainer, and there were literally no bodybuilding coaches. Like, it just didn't exist. When I competed, Don Marnie ran my gym, Spartan's Gym, and he was a very accomplished bodybuilder. He competed with NABBA and gone to multiple NABBA worlds and universities and placed highly and won a NABBA world. So he was the man of the gym. And if you wanted to do a bodybuilding show, you went and spoke to Don. But Don wouldn't really write things out for you or, you know, dictate a diet. You would hit a few poses and he'd say, you know, you need to drop your carbs. And I'd be like, oh, okay, how much? You just go, to do 0 carbs for like 4 days. He's like, oh, okay. So you do 0 carbs for 4 days, and then you look at him, and he would have a look at you again, and he'd be like, all right, you know, put in, you know, 100 grams of rice a day and increase your cardio or whatever. It was very, very loose guidelines. He's not writing a program. He's not writing a diet. He's just sort of giving rough instructions. And it really was a case of you coached yourself largely, and you were very, very lucky. I was very lucky to have a second eye like Don Marnie around that would at least tell me, like, ruthlessly, you know, you're behind. You need to bring this up. Like, your arms are skinny. You need to do more arms, like whatever it was. But for most of us, it was just figure it out on yourself. And if you can't, well, bad luck, you know, like, it's just how it goes.
It was like that. So you started competing in 2004 to 2015. Tell us about the competitions, the division you were in. I'm guessing there wasn't many divisions anyway. It was one division. And the challenges to get pro cards, 7 state finals. What was your most memorable comp and least memorable comp? I mean, there's a bit there, but tell us about the comps you've done, the 7 state finals, the difficulty different now, but getting pro cards. And what was your most memorable comp and least memorable comp?
So in terms of the era itself, it was literally just bodybuilding. That was the men's division, bodybuilding. Yeah. And, you know, you basically competed until you won a novice title, and then you're in the open ranks, and that was how it went. I won a novice title early on. I came second in my first year and then won it in my second year. So from that point on, I was an open bodybuilder, and I was always a super heavyweight bodybuilder. I was always over 100 kilos. So that was my division. And at that point in time, there was no real legitimate path to a pro card. It was the IFBB was a little bit different then. The only way you could get a pro card was to go represent Australia at the World Championships.
Yeah.
And that was drug tested unless you knew the people that were running the show, and then perhaps they would just skip you in the drug testing. And,
of course. But it was back then. Now, funny enough, you bring that up. I mean, that was also a bit of a deterrent. And even though we talked about cycle, I never was on a cycle back then, but it was strict. There was drug testing going on. I remember it. It was like, it wasn't open, everybody come and bodybuild. This, there was scrutiny there to make sure, like, yeah, regardless, people bringing in false samples or whatever, you knew someone, and I guess working the place, it wasn't a free ticket just to get on stage and get a few good snaps.
No, it was not. Like, it was very, very difficult. And look, it was a different time in bodybuilding in Australia, and there was a little political component to it in terms of you had to, do the right things in the eyes of the right people in order to be granted pro status, because a few people were granted pro status back then, but there wasn't a path. You win the show, you get it. It just didn't work like that. You had to win multiple shows. You had to do the right things in the eyes of the promoter. You had to promote the sport, represent the sport for a certain amount of time, and kiss butt to the right people, and then perhaps you would get a pro card. And so be it. That's how it was until Tony started putting on the pro qualifying shows, the FitX pro qualifying shows, and then there was an annual path to a pro card, and I pursued that. That was where I was going. It was sort of the next thing to win, because I'd won multiple state and national titles, so the pro card was the next thing to tick off. But I just fell short, and it was through no fault of anyone's. I was literally just not good enough. Like, Luke Shembry beat me 1 year, Josh Lenardowitz beat me 1 year, and then in my final year of competing, Atif Anwar beat me, and quite justifiably so in every circumstance. So it was good, but there was probably a backlog of high caliber athletes waiting to get their pro status, and as a result, it was pretty damn tough getting it. And that was fine. Like, yeah, that's just the way it was back then. And look, I would have never done anything as a pro anyway, to be completely honest. I probably wanted that pro card in the end as much for marketing purposes as anything. It's like, once you got a pro card, you can increase your PT rates by, $20-$30 an hour and earn a bit more money. Like, that was literally my mindset behind it. So while I didn't get it, it hasn't held me back, I guess, in any way with my post-competition career. So it was just fun battling with those guys. It was, had an absolute ball.
No, you shouldn't. Chris tells me stop reading pro at the end of every name. I see it on Instagram. I go, oh, Chris, this person's a pro. Let's get him on. And he's going, like, you just take the pro out of it. Because I'll probably see, commercial cleaner. Pro. Oh, let's get that cleaner in, man. It's a pro cleaner. everybody's a pro. But yeah, Chris has had to pull in the reins on me. He's like, just don't worry about that fucking pro bit that they're talking about. So I've had to calm down. I mean, everybody, it didn't matter what, even if they put a few initials there and it said pro, I just said, well, this guys must be really good at what they're doing. What was your most memorable moment and least memorable?
That's good questions. Probably my most memorable was beating Luke Shembry in 2010 in the Country Classic Invitational. Not because it was a prestigious title. It's just that I loved beating Luke Shembry because we were really good mates and really, really competitive. And back then, we were far less politically correct. And there were all bodybuilding message boards. And we used to just banter non-stop, like just attack each other at every possible opportunity, which you don't really see that much anymore because people sort of get offended. But back then, neither one of us could offend the other, so we just went as hard as we possibly could. Yeah. And as a result, we sort of built a little bit of a following of Goble versus Shembry. Ended up both being sponsored by Max's. We did a podcast for a while. We've done all sorts of little business ventures together, and we still do to this day. So yeah, beating him was really memorable because he was sort of seen as a superior competitor to me at the time. But it was more just the the personal sense of accomplishment of beating a good mate, you know, and being able to lord it over him for the rest of my life.
Who doesn't like that? And your least memorable moment?
And probably when Luke Shembry beat me for the pro card in 2013, because it was a far more prestigious event, and he's been lording it over me ever since.
I know. So, Josh Lenarowicz beat the 1 point and the 6 point, which seems to be a sore point. Let's get that out of the way.
It's not a sore point. It's a great sense of pride. Josh is one of the best bodybuilders that this country has ever produced. 2 top 10 placings in the Mr. Olympia. Absolute legend of a bloke, like and amazing physique, like just incredible physique. So the fact that one judge thought I was better than him on that day, that's actually a great source of pride. There's no negative attached to that whatsoever. Josh well and truly deserved that win. Did a hell of a lot more with the pro card than I ever would have. But I'm just glad that one moment in time, one judge thought I was a little bit better than him.
Oh God, you should have that I'm sure you've got it as a plaque somewhere. Tell us about love and passion for coaching, that transition, what you learned, but more so learning more, working with other people you've learned. Explain that.
Yeah, look, coaching's a funny game because you become better at it the more experience you get. But how do you get the experience when you're just starting out? Like, because I was not a good coach when I started. I just didn't understand individual needs and requirements and the way different people saw things and the way they reacted to hunger and fatigue and everything else, which is an inevitable part of it. And only through coaching hundreds of people do you start to acquire the skill set to be able to help them through the process. So it's a really fascinating thing. Like, but am I passionate about it? Yeah, I absolutely love it. Like, I just love bodybuilding, and I know what it brings to your life. Like, it's not so much the physique. Like, because the physique's going to fade, but it's that sense of accomplishment. It's that ability to overcome obstacles. It's setting goals and achieving them. It's doing things that normal people cannot do, which really raises the self-esteem and all that sort of wonderful stuff that will last the test of time. Like, I still call on bodybuilding lessons now in my everyday life. I know I can handle it. If times are tough, I can get through it. And I know that because I did some very, very tough preps back in the day. So I love seeing individuals grow both physically and in terms of like their mental resilience. And I love being able to coach them through that process and sort of hold their hand and guide them through it. So I find it incredibly gratifying because I know what it's brought into my life, and I would love to see it bring that into others' lives as well. And, if they're hardworking individuals, they're determined individuals, it will absolutely just make them better people, I think. And that's a hard thing to beat. I do get a great sense of accomplishment. I'm more nervous when my athletes take the stage than I ever was when I took the stage. Like, it's amazing how it all works. And I guess now I'm not a competitor, but I'm still a very competitive person. I always was. And I get very, very invested in my athletes when they're up there. And, it's amazing how in some instances I'll take a loss harder than they will and stuff like that. But at the same time, I have to remain in control and calm at all times and, let them understand the process and what wins and losses mean in the grand scheme of things and everything else. So it's a fascinating job I have. And it's hard to sort of pinpoint the exact thing I love about it because I just love so much about it.
I think I saw you at a show. I think maybe it was a Sydney show. You can correct me if I'm wrong, the IFBB. And I think you were speaking a little bit to John, but you were sitting there.
I was speaking to John, yeah.
See, I can remember that because and you were speaking to John, but it was amazing. Even though John was talking to you, your eyes were not getting off that stage. Like, you were watching your competitor. Like, it just didn't matter who's around you, who's talking to you. You had to respect. Like, what I mean is, you would just like, even I kind of saw you. I saw you a little. I just saw you go, who is this guy? Like, just a bit of mysterious guy. Like, he's pretty focused. What's he focused on? I didn't understand who you were, so I was just watching, thinking, So I guess I could see your conviction. Why? Because you're basically locked in. You're not budging for your athletes.
I had great athletes in that show. I had outstanding athletes in that show. Like some of my, like, not that, you know, you're meant to have favorites as a coach, but some of my favorite athletes in that show, you know, like Dr. Ash was in that show. I knew what that show meant to him and for his family. And it was an enormous thing for him. So I was, you know, I desperately wanted him to do well. I had a couple of, you know, bikini competitors in that show, which were outstanding competitors that I knew how much they'd invested in this to be successful. And yeah, it was, I really enjoyed that Sydney show. It was one of my favorites. And I always enjoyed sitting down and chatting to John as well. He's
No, he is. And like I said, because I knew he was, I just guess I didn't know who you were. I guess because you're from Melbourne as well. And I'm from Sydney. And I'm just as invested as you guys, but I've only discovered the shows recently and understanding all this. But as loving the sport, in the sport, training the sport, understanding diets, mate, I nearly made it to Manpower one time. I actually met him up in Queensland when they first started, and a friend of mine knew one of them, and we were ripped as fuck. I didn't even know who these guys were. And I remember going to their place to have a barbecue, and I'm seeing these guys with photos in their underwear all over the fucking, you know, up on the walls. I'm thinking, I said to my cousin, what have we stumbled on here? But they were so down-to-earth guys, man. We played touch football. But the great thing going out with them is they pulled the chicks.
I'm sure.
They fucking pulled the chicks in. I was wondering why they were pulling so many chicks in. I'm like, these guys are like magnets. Yeah. But, you know, I love the sport.
My wife still talks about the Jamie Jury Manpower days. So,
well, like I said, mate, pool volleyball, barbecues, touch football, going out with them. Don't ask me why, but the manager and one of the guys in it, Billy, were Greek. And I think when you're kind of young Greek guys and you meet each other when you're wogs, you kind of like, we just kind of resonate a little bit. And I think we looked the part. We were kind of ripped and built, and we kind of looked like strippers. We had that stripper look, you know, which is not a bodybuilding kind of we had the six pack. It was enough. It was enough for women to scream over.
Yeah. Nice.
We weren't the gorillas that girls used to call everyone. You look like a gorilla. 6 days ago, you posted that you're very proud gym dad, but you did write with his 3 daughters who absolutely smashed it in Japan.
Okay, so that's referring to the clients, the clients over there. So so I had 3 clients over in Japan at the Amateur Olympia, placed in the top 3, and I mean that's a big accomplishment in an international show. We're talking about lineups of, you know, one lineup had 34 girls and the others had 20 plus.
Wow.
And one girl actually took out the title of, you know, Amateur Miss Olympia in her height division. Gabriella Castillo, congrats to Gab. And it was very, very proud. Like they traveled over there. I flew over, you know, a day or 2 later, and just so I could, you know, help out with the finishing touches. And it was a good team, you know, like not always will the competitors gel with each other. You know, there's a sense of rivalry or whatever, but everyone was very, very supportive and very, very understanding. And it worked out brilliantly because everyone was in a different height category. So they weren't directly up against each other. They were up against the world. And it was super exciting for all of us. And I had a fantastic time over there. And I think it was a great experience. And I think I would encourage everyone to go overseas and compete at an international level in a big show like that, because it just makes you realize what is out there and the standard of competition. And I think every one of those girls that competed over there will come back and be a better competitor as a result. They'll set a higher expectation for themselves in terms of development, conditioning, presentation, whatever it may be. And even as a coach, I felt like, all right, like this is a big world out here, and you know, I've got to level up, I've got to get better so I can get these girls to the standard where they are taking out these titles and you know, winning overalls and coming home with pro cards. Like we got very close and they represented brilliantly, but you know, no one came out with a pro card. So there's another level again, and they want to get there and I want to get them there. So yeah, we just got to get better.
I guess what else do you want to do in business? I guess you want to take on the world. I guess you're taking it on your home place. You want to take on the world. I'm going to touch in a little bit more there, but I have to ask, posing bikini, mate. Team Goble, cool. Are there many team posing bikinis out there? Like, why have you got your team posing bikini, buddy? What's going on? Is this so they can practice in? What's going on here, eh?
All right, so we'll have to let you into the inner workings of Team Goble, because I am the coach of Team Goble. I am not the marketing guy. I'm not the social media guy. I am not the team bikini guy. There was
Right,
absolutely
okay.
zero involvement in this
that
process
clears it
from
up.
my end. So
That clears it up,
yes,
yes.
my social media manager, Victoria Petanos, who is also a very good competitor in her own right, she has organised the team bikinis based off of a need, apparently. So these can be ordered, and I know a number of girls have ordered them, and yeah, I never ever thought I would see my name on a bikini, but here we are. So
You've
yes,
made it, Scott. You've
apparently,
made it. You've
yes.
made it, mate. Like I wouldn't mind my name on some girls' clothing, but then again, maybe I should hand back their clothing. Sorry. Well, let's not go back into my 20s and some of the rewards that were. No, we won't go there. We won't go back to manpower days.
Right.
But anyway, explain team. This is a good segue in. Explain Team Goble's community group. Why so important?
Oh, look, we've only just started that up. And the reason why I started that is because there's lots of stuff that goes on in the bodybuilding industry, which is sort of swept under the carpet. Like it's just not discussed openly on social media or anywhere for that matter. And I feel like a lot of my clients feel a sense of shame if they're struggling with a high food focus, they've had a binge eating episode, they're struggling with rebound weight gain, post-show, body image issues, things like that, because it's all very, very common, and it's more common with the female clientele. And I know that many people suffer from it, but the individuals themselves don't realize that, and they feel somewhat isolated and perhaps ashamed about what they're experiencing post-show when they shouldn't be, because in many instances, some of their idols go through the exact same thing. It's not something that's specific to the first-time competitor. There are experienced competitors that still struggle with that post-show phase, and there's many reasons for it, and a lot of them are just driven through physiology and inbuilt survival mechanisms of the body, which does not want to be in contest condition, and it is going to do everything possible to make you regain some body fat so that you can be healthy and survive the next famine or whatever it thinks is coming your way. So that's why I've started it up, but I really need to sort of invest some more time into that, because I think it's important that we discuss some of the less glamorous aspects of the sport so that we can understand them, and so that we can take away the stigma and shame associated with them, and educate people so that they can navigate that time period better. So that's the purpose behind that community. And I do want it to be a bit of a closed community, which I guess in hindsight, I'm contributing to the issue then by, keeping this, under the rug. But I want to give my clientele like a safe space to discuss things like this, where they aren't going to be judged and they aren't going to be sort of looked down upon or anything like that. So hence, the little community has been built, and I do hope to add a little bit more value to my clients through that medium.
I think it's a good idea. Like when I read it and I saw it, I knew, well, it's an individual sport, and you don't feel like anyone struggles like we all do, and you feel like you're alone, both mentally, physically, emotionally, even financially. Sometimes some people are broke trying to compete as well. So there's a lot of things in it. I think as well, what you're telling me, and if we look at it like, I guess you guys in the AFL, and we've got the rugby league here, that some teams need elders in the team to bring the younger ones through, because the younger ones can lose their way with the fame, lose their way with. So I think you need. Forgive me for saying this. I think you're onto a good thing. I think you should work on it a bit more. I think it definitely needs that. I think it will help your business to have those kind of ambassadors, and also be able for people to talk about, check-ins, checking in after comps, people, and not being you, because sometimes, what it's like talking to your parent. Like sometimes you don't want to talk to your parent, but you want to talk to your mate. You want to talk to someone that's done it recently. I'm sure being Dr. Ash is such a very intelligent fellow. He could offer so much to that community as well. So I guess when I saw it, it kind of made sense what you're trying to achieve, and I think you should. I think it's a business smart as well to have that.
Yeah, no, I think it will add value to the service I can provide, and I completely agree with you. I think there's one thing for me to tell a 23-year-old girl, this is normal, this is okay, and it's another thing to hear it from the 28-year-old professional that they look up to and admire. So and that is why I wanted to create this. It's so that some of my more experienced competitors could also chime in and help out the less experienced ones. And let them know that they aren't alone, and that everyone struggles with these things to a degree, and there are certain techniques and approaches you can use to help you get through it. And it is really interesting. Like, it's not discussed a lot, like body image issues and things like that. Most people get into bodybuilding to resolve their body image issues, and they leave with more because they compete.
I've had more. I've had, like, I still struggle, meaning, but thankfully, when you feel shit mentally, okay, man, let's tweak our diet. Let's get a bit strict. All right, let's get in the gym. You're not going enough, or you're too long in there. Like, we could find it, but it's relentless. It's ever testing, you know what I mean? And we're never happy in front of the mirror. When are you ever happy? Like, you look at yourself and you go, you actually look at photos in the past. You go, fuck, I should have paid a bit more attention to myself. I looked pretty good back then.
100%. And is it a competitor's mindset to be happy? Like, can you be happy and content, or do you need to always be dissatisfied to a degree in order to keep pushing yourself to a new level? Like, it's interesting. So yeah, it's fascinating to me. There's no such thing as happy. There's no happiness in life. There's accomplishments. It's all about accomplishing that makes you happy. To find the end goal of happiness, it's hard to imagine or believe that and say, oh, no, there is none. It's a false belief to think, oh, I'm trying to do what I'm doing, so I'm happy in the end. Accomplishments, achieving, getting in there, that's what makes you happy. There's no finish happy. You don't sit back and go, because yourself as with bodybuilding, I thought when I turned 30, I could stop training. Oh, fuck, I've done it. I've built it. I don't need to do it anymore. And then I realized, fuck, I've got to go back. I'm becoming back. I'm going back to normal. Like, you know what I mean? Like, the body is ever wanting to pull back and take you back. Like, I guess you build a little bit of foundation, but what I mean is the body needs to be stimulated. I've always said it. The bodybuilding is the fountain of youth. Whether you believe it or not, it's the fountain of youth. There's no other sport that has got the fountain of youth, meaning because you've got to turn up and fucking do something about it. I believe it, but my knees deny that theory. My knees are cooked.
Yeah, no. Well,
I've got the knees of an 80-year-old.
Yeah, but I think you've, which even Jay Cutler mentions the difference between some bodybuilders. You probably smashed them really hard.
I did.
And you probably, yeah. Where, actually, I'm okay, to be honest. I'm really good. But I guess I used to push really hard, but I didn't go, I just didn't go all the time pushing hard. I just knew, it was like I said to someone, which they don't realize, because I'm watching it a little bit in the sport too, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. I think people are a little bit premature in coming to competition levels, because I realized, mate, there's 2 phases through the year. There's your bulk up stage, and then you're leaving backstage. And then you bulk up stage the next year, and you're leaving backstage, because you're always building to go from fucking 82 kilos to 86 kilos and be built and ripped is a fucking hard ask. But everyone's doesn't understand. Just because you lose body fat, mate, I'll just let you know you're skinny. You're just skinny. And I don't think they're realizing just, like we've got to do the journey. So when you rip that fat back, we've got some muscle to show off. And I think again, I'm not saying the sport is looking good, but it needs to pay attention that it doesn't just allow everyone to jump on stage, because in the end, it's just going to be a fashion parade. You know what I mean? Like, I'll tell you the truth. I look at people on stage sometimes, I think, come on, man. I mean, I know they've registered, and I know, like, anyone can register, and everyone goes, okay, come on stage. Thank you for your money. And you go, the guys up there. I don't think it's good for the sport. I think there should be ticking off boxes. I think we should, like, maybe people sending photos, and everyone to look at it in a way to respect the sport, that it's not becoming, it's good for my IG. That's what I think. I love it. I love the girl input. Fantastic. Men's physique. Fantastic. Honestly, I believe them two are going to take over the sport. I still think the Opens is the monster trucks, is the Formula One, but I believe men's physique and girls, the bikinis and all that, they're just going to keep growing. It's going to be massive.
The bikini division is already by far the most popular female division. It's not even close. It's almost eliminating other divisions single-handedly.
And 50% of girls in the gym, they're taking over the gym as well. I mean,
absolutely.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah. Men's physique, yeah, possibly. I think classic bodybuilding with C-bum and stuff like that is probably a threat to take over from open bodybuilding popularity. I'm not sure about physique. Maybe if they could hit some more muscle poses.
Watch 5 years. Watch in 5 years. I'll tell you why I say that. Yeah, classic bodybuilding looks amazing. It does. But it's starting to become unattainable again. Mate, the John Torelli days, the Lee Haney days, the Frank Zane days and all that. Come on, man. They still were pretty smooth. They weren't as now. Fucking C-Bump can take out the opens if he wants. You know what I mean? Like, it is, they're taking it to, like I said, classic, it looks amazing, like it. But why I'm saying men's physique, why I'm saying that is it's attainable. So you're going to have more competitors. More competitors, that means more money. More money, better advertising, better shows. I mean, the show must go on. It's about entertainment. And I think the men's physique and the girls are going to create entertainment. So
yeah, you could be right. You could be right. I see the men's. I love every division that is in bodybuilding. For me, men's physique it doesn't have the entertainment factor because of the posing. That's the thing that I think it lets it down. Like, I think classic physique, they've leveled up the presentation of the sport. I think that they brought something new to it that was starting to slip away in the open division because they weren't judging posing routines and things like that. And I think the posing and presentation aspect of it is far more important in classic physique.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I actually said to Peter Hardwick that I think there should be a big score on your posing. I think you should physically be amazing, but if you've got the dance right, I think that should be, because that's the entertainment part, I guess. And I think I think the judges should incorporate, you get points for posing, because you're put this effort in, you've invested in the dance, you've invested in the look. The people are clapping because you've done this amazing pose. I think, and you've entertained the crowd, and I think that's what this is the entertainment industry, man. I'm telling you, this is why Wilder did an amazing job with it, and why UFC and everybody, they're entertainers, mate. I mean, selling tickets, that's what we want to do. But talk about selling tickets, Reggie Rampage. We did a workout thing with him. You know that? Did you ever watch? Did you watch it?
I didn't know. No, I saw snippets of the podcast.
You've got to watch it. We've done a workout session.
Okay.
It's very gangster-like. It's very gangster-like.
Sure.
But and Dr. Ash as well. I mean, two amazing. They've been on my podcast. I know Reggie's preparing for 2024 season A. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes, he's going to be a serious threat in that classic physique division.
Fuck me dead. I've seen him recently. He's going to areas I know myself I can't touch, but I guess it looks like a world of pain, but he is relentless at the moment.
Yeah, no, he's serious. He's in it to win it, and he knows he's very close. He was a close second at the national titles last time he got on stage. And we are getting better with our collaboration. I'm learning what it takes for him. Our first go around, to be honest with you, it wasn't that impressive. he was improved to a degree, but he wasn't anywhere near he needed to be. And his physique remained a bit of a mystery to me, to be honest with you. But we figured out a lot of things in his last prep, and I think we're going to be very, very impressive season A 2024. I think he's going to be a real problem, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing him up there.
Well, I tell you what, I trained with him, and yeah, he spooked me because he's good. He's good. Like I thought I could try to keep up with him, but yeah, no, I can't keep up with that guy.
You didn't train legs with him, did you? You didn't do legs?
No. I saw the legs. Legs is one of my prominent things, but yeah, no, I can see it. I can see the work. The work says winner, so the work tells me. And Dr. Ash, I mean, wow, talk about a guy. I mean, he taught me that what winning means. He taught me winning means fun. So he just said, you want to have fun? Win. That was it. He's very clear cut.
Yeah. Well, look, he's won a lot of things, but he's fallen short of the biggest titles and the overalls in the past.
Yeah.
So I'm sure he had a lot of fun taking out the overall at both Sydney and Nationals.
He did.
Yeah, it was a great accomplishment. You know, that division's not getting easier. Like, that division's just getting harder and harder every year. So yeah, he probably took out the best physique like we've ever seen, like on that amateur stage, the deepest, most competitive lineups. And to be honest with you, season A 2024 will probably be the next deepest, most competitive lineups, and it will roll on because every season is better than the last. At the moment, it's quite terrifying, the standard of competition. So if you're a recent winner, you're a hell of a competitor.
Well, let me tell you, some of the guys on Classic this year were fucking huge, like on the borderlines of open, like really amazing. So all these winners, Monica Giourgis winning, you know, season A 2023. How do you keep up, man? How do you keep up loving these guys, individualizing them, training all these athletes? Like, you know, they're not all the same. How do you do it?
No, they're not all the same, and I look at them as an individual little problem-solving puzzle. You know, like,
do you ever get overwhelmed? Do you ever go like? Do you ever rock back on your chair and go, "Gotta breathe here, man. There's too much going on."
Yeah, there are times where I've been close to that point. Like, I mean, yeah, I must admit,
they're all great athletes. They're all great. Like, they're all like what you're doing, and it's just like these guys are investing in you. You're investing. Like, this is serious shit. That's what I'm saying. Is like, wow.
It is serious shit, and they are very, very serious athletes, and I have to try and match their level of effort. You know? Like you do. And I don't know, I find it very, very easy to be enthusiastic and be passionate when they are enthusiastic and they're passionate. Now, if I've got a client who's pretty lackluster and cheating on their diet and missing their check-ins and things like that, they're the ones I struggle with because I've got to try and get myself up and give them energy and get them up to speed. But the Monica Giourgises of the world, the Dr. Ashes, the Reggies, they're easy. They are easy because they're all they want to do is do more. Like, they're the clients where I'm telling them to do less. No, don't go so hard. No, pull back. No, actually rest. You know, they're the ones which I love, you know, and they're the ones that ultimately achieve the greatest level of success. I've had the privilege of turning quite a few people pro, and they all share that same character trait. They just want to do more, and they're willing to run through walls and destroy themselves in order to get to their goals. And it's more my role to just come in and, use logic and objectivity and calm them down and, make sure that they're not doing too much.
Look, it shows, and it also shows that I've noticed that you do an individual post-comp interview with them outside.
Sometimes. I did that once, yeah.
Oh, no, have you done it once only? You sure?
Yeah, I only did it at one show, yeah.
I don't know, because I saw you talking with Monica too, and you're fine-tuning yourself to do more, but you definitely were individualizing the conversation with them, and you were, showing off their superhero human qualities and getting them to share. Like, yeah, I just noticed that. I don't know. I thought it was something you were doing all the time.
No, I did it at that one show in season A. I didn't do it in 2000. At the season B shows. I don't know why. I just didn't. But look, it is. You become very involved in the athlete's life. Like, you understand their struggles. You become invested in it. So things about them that perhaps others do not. Their strengths, their weaknesses. And it's your job to, capitalize on those strengths and minimize those weaknesses and get them through the best way you can. So it's fascinating. The coach-client relationship is a relatively unique one. We mentioned Gabrielle Castillo before. She took out the short class Open Nationals and short class Open Amateur Olympia. And one of my favorite things about her is her dad.
All right.
Her dad goes to every single show. And her dad is probably the only person I know that is more stressed out than I am at each one of her shows, because she's always in the mix. She's always so close to winning, and her dad is losing his mind. And I just look over at him and I just sort of think, I'm glad there's someone more stressed than me. Like, he just sort of brings me down to earth. But I love that. I love that people have a passion for it, and it extends beyond them to their partners and their family, and definitely to their coach. And it's I don't know, it's a fascinating sport to me, because so much effort is invested for, in reality, like in the big picture of it, so little reward. Like there isn't much financial reward. There's not.
But the fact is, and I think, I don't know where exactly in Melbourne you live, but in what I'm seeing in the Sydney shows, people are coming from country New South Wales. You don't even know these people. You don't understand what gym means to these people. They're like, it's different from the city slickers to the country folks. But what makes me amazed and makes a soft coziness in my heart is when they've come with their entourage and they're all wearing the t-shirts.
Yeah.
And they've got the flowers ready, and they've got this ready, and like fuck, I feel that girl on stage has busted her guts, but these people they're there for her or him, and it's a beautiful scene when they're cheering them off the stage. I guess, like you said, there's not much reward in the money, but what about the love?
100%.
Like what I'm seeing, it's beautiful.
Yeah, no, there is an immense reward. It's just not a tangible financial reward.
No, there's not.
Yeah, so no, it's I don't know. It's a fascinating sport. We could go on about it forever.
No, that's true. You said something on the 22nd of November 2020. We're coming close to the end now. How you coped post show, and how it made no difference whether you won or lost. Your life didn't change. How everything was the same, and not placing too much significance. It was an education to you. So you were sending that message out. I guess you're trying to tell people, guys, so take it that don't lose yourself over it, a win or a loss. It's all the same.
100%. Like, I've won some big shows and I've lost some big shows, and it was important to me.
Yeah.
But it was not important to those that were important to me. Like my partner would still love me. My family still love me. I'd still have the same friendship circle. I'd still go back to work the next day. It's not like I was, given millions of dollars, like lifestyle change or anything like that.
Yeah.
In the big picture of it, nothing really significant changes. But, I still understand the desire to win. But it is not the be all and end all, and it is not a marker of success or failure. To any degree. And once you step away from the sport, you will realize that it was the journey more so than the destination. But at the time, I completely understand being wrapped up in the end result. But in time, with hindsight, you will understand that you've accomplished something amazing regardless of the placing.
Yeah, most definitely. And we're 10 years later, I mean, it's up to you what you do with your wins and losses, I guess. So you can definitely still do so much more with the fact that you competed, and utilize that mindset in according to your life going forward. Two things I'd like to know: competing overseas, is it much different to competing here? The judging profiles, or like, do you have to tweak things differently when they go compete overseas?
I think there's differences from one judging panel to another, and even in the professional ranks and in the international circuit, there are certain judges that favour certain things. But it's more so in the subjective division, and the most subjective division of all is the bikini division.
All right, yeah.
Like men's physique and bodybuilding. Bodybuilding is the easiest to judge. Get as big and as hard as you possibly can, and then hopefully you've got the structure and proportions to do really well.
Yeah.
But bikini is a difficult one, because you need to be muscular, but you can't be too muscular.
Yeah.
You need to be conditioned, but you can't be too conditioned. And you have to have these intangibles of flow and shape and proportion and all this sort of stuff, which can't really be objectively measured. So it's the toughest one, and it's the one where you see the biggest variance from judging panel to judging panel. There's a little bit of variance even within Australian judging panels, where some judges lean a little bit more towards the shape over the conditioning and vice versa. So having an understanding of that is important. But I guess, that you really it is on the biggest stages where that really comes into light the most. And at the Amateur Olympia in Japan, I did realize that, the judging was a little bit different to the Australians. They rewarded a more muscular look. They rewarded a more conditioned look than what we typically would here. But that was, I shouldn't say that was one judging panel. That was a judging panel run by Tyler Mannion and Steve Weinberger, the big bosses that determine the criteria. So no one can really argue with it. They dictate the criteria. They don't interpret it. So that's what they wanted to see. And I'm sort of like, okay, I've got to, give them what they want to see if we're going to have the ultimate success on the international stage. But it's funny because that could mean that you'll get penalized by another judging panel.
Yeah, I also think is it wellness? I can't remember.
Wellness, yeah.
A bigger bottom half to a smaller top half. Like I think I'm right in saying that from what I've heard.
100%.
And I'm thinking to myself, fuck, like, wow, you got to work some magic, man. You got to really work some magic. Don't touch this, touch that. Don't do this, do that. Like, wow, it's and it's a fine line. Me personally, when I watch the girls come out in bikinis in the different categories, I'm like, yeah, she looks like the girl in the last competition. I don't know, but it's a fine line. I get it, and I know why they're professional judges and why it all happens. But yeah, the bikini one, it's a real testing, and they're trying to. I think as well, what I heard was even with classic and with men's physique and with all the girls, they're really trying to make sure no one exceeds the other one because they're starting to cross over a little bit.
Absolutely, yeah. There needs to be a clear delineation between divisions and a separate criteria for each one. And I think there is. I think they do a pretty good job overall. And I think the Australian judging is of a pretty good standard overall as well. But there is always subjectivity and room for interpretation within the criteria. So, at the end of the day, it is generally a case of only the winner is happy. And, I've had many clients that have lost and have been convinced that it was a bad decision or a political decision or something like that. And I'm just sort of like, no, it's just that particular judging panel didn't think you were quite as good as that other girl based on their interpretation of the criteria.
Yeah, I think I spoke to Reggie about that, and he did enlighten about the different judging criteria. So competing and getting a person ready who's in another state, seeing what I guess you need to see. I'm thinking in person is a little bit better. How do you do it, man? Like what I'm trying to say is, let's say, I decide to compete. How do I trust an interstate judge? Then trying to find a local judge. Is there the pros and cons? Because I guess someone's going to be listening to this podcast and say, all right, why would I use Scott over someone in Sydney? But yeah, tell us, sell it to us in a sense.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Yeah, the online coaching experience puts a little bit more pressure on the athlete than a face-to-face one.
Yeah.
For that very reason, they need to provide me with quality posing video and posing photos. They need to have it well lit. They need to be able to replicate those conditions time and time again. So that's what I emphasize with my interstate clients. I want to see a fasted posing video because there's minimal variables involved. I want to see it under the exact same conditions at the exact same time, and I want you to replicate that on a regular basis for me. That way I can accurately appraise your physique and see the changes that are taking place as we go through the prep. So I do badger some of my clients constantly if the quality of the feedback they provide me in terms of the posing video isn't up to scratch. I literally cannot do my job as well as I could if I was seeing them in person. So I hound them for it, and I've badgered many of them to getting tripods and ring lights and whatever is necessary, and getting proper posing conditions in order to me to be able to do my job as I need to. So it is very effective when you get that, but the client needs to be able to provide that, and the client needs to be able to communicate well. They need to express exactly what's going on, how their body's feeling, their fatigue levels, their hunger levels, communicate whether there's performance decrements or whatever it is that's taking place. And if that's the case, then I can coach them every bit as good as if they're in person. There is no issue from my perspective if they are good communicators and they can provide quality feedback.
Okay, all right. Well, that's good to know. Do you ever pop in? Do you ever fly in to see them, or do you ever do anything? Like, I'm just a question, I guess. Try to turn over every stone of question.
Sure. Rarely will I fly interstate to see a competitor, but I've had many fly in to see me.
Okay.
Absolutely. I will generally be there
good.
For their shows. Went to every single state show this year, so I could be there for my clients, and I try and get there a day or two early so I can guide them through the fine tuning process towards the end. But yeah, that's pretty much the extent of it. But it's not uncommon for us to have daily communication in the last few weeks when you're making the minor little manipulations and putting the finishing touches on.
Okay. All right. Last question before we go over the body, because we usually go over the body and get some exercise tips from you. It's also mine and Chris's objective to get free personal training from everybody.
Nice.
Lee Priest mentioned, why do coaches need coaches to prepare for comps?
Mm-hmm.
What year did significance come from needing a coach? And did athletes in the past how did they do it with no coach? How did they come up with such amazing physiques? Like,
Yeah, look, I would say that those physiques potentially could have been even better had they had good
there
coaches.
You go. Okay.
Look, I coached myself, and towards the end of my competitive career, there were other coaches available, but my ego wouldn't let me hand over the reins to someone else. I thought I knew best. Looking back, I wish I had employed other coaches. It is very, very hard to assess your physique objectively when you've invested so much emotion and effort into it. Like, that's the reality of it. I coach lots of coaches, and
he did mention, I'll just let you know, nothing against Lee. I get the question. I know where he's going from.
Yeah.
But he also said, but that's why you have training partners. They critique you.
Yeah, well, not every training partner is an expert,
There you go, right.
So yes, I mean, I've known many of my clients to come and say, my training partner said that, and I will come up with a more political reply than your training partner's an idiot, but that's generally the message I convey. So don't rely on your training partner. Yes. And honestly, like, you do invest so much in it, like so much effort, so much emotion. It is very, very hard to be objective. Like, I look back at my competitive career, and I just did too much. I just pushed too hard. I just ran myself into the ground, and I refused to allow myself to back off in the way that I would allow my clients to, because in my head, I'm like, no, you're just being a pussy. You're slacking off. You got to keep going. Like, I just wouldn't allow it. Had I had a coach, they probably would have said, no, you need rest. Your performance is decreasing. Your fatigue is high. You're an insomniac. Like, take a couple rest days, eat some food, relax. Your body will be better for it. But I couldn't allow myself to back off. I just had to go harder and harder and harder. So, and I feel like that's what the majority of my most successful clients would do. Without me there, they would run themselves into the ground. And I think Dr. Ash, I don't know if you got in the ins and outs of his prep, he said it was the easiest prep he's ever done.
Yeah.
And because he's that old school mentality, like, I'm going to do more. I'm going to do more. And I was like literally telling him, no, don't stop setting personal bests. Now is not the time to set personal bests. We're trying to go from 6% body fat to 4% body fat. You don't need to put up an all-time record in your, whatever movement you're trying to do. But that was his mentality. I've just got to keep getting better. I've got to keep working harder. And I think he got a better outcome as a result of me being the sort of, voice of reason.
Yeah. I'm thinking about that now. I mean, I did like the sound. It sounded like an easy prep, because I actually quietly, I know this sounds weird, I kind of quietly want to compete, but I don't know yet. I don't know. I feel like I'm a little bit nervous about. I'm not worried. I'm kind of more concerned of the unknown. I think I'm a control freak.
Sure.
So I think that's my problem. And I'm also the type, I'm a bit of a proud guy, so I don't want to embarrass myself against top competitors, but I'm also fucking competitive, and I just want to take everyone out. So I do. Politely, I do. Sure. And, what's his name? Phil Heath said he was savage. When he was going for competition time, he said, I went to savage mode. Mm-hmm. And he goes, that was it. I'm taking everyone out. So once, it wasn't like he wasn't friends with them, but once he was in, he's slayed. He said, I was slaying him. That was, and I guess I would be the same. Yeah, I can't come in otherwise. Now, it could be to my detriment. And that's why I think it's the fine line. I'm trying to, I don't know, I'd probably implode knowing me in a way. But.
Yeah, you never know. And I must clarify, easy prep is a relative term. There is no such thing as an easy prep.
That was probably easier in a way that he's prepped in the past and needed to prep. But he's built the foundations there anyway.
100%.
Are you fat up or fed up? Tired of boring food? We just cooked this from our What Should I Eat cookbook. It's also on an ebook, making it more affordable for you. So
Get your copy at threeog.shop.
All right, okay, let's go over the body. I'm gonna tell you a body part, just an exercise, and sets and reps. Now, if you don't train it, you don't train it, whatever. That's okay. I'm going to go through everything. So some things you just go, come on, Steve. But, I'm going to mention the tibialis because I feel like I'm intelligent when I say it. But having said that, traps.
Sure.
What about traps?
The traps is comprised, it's a fairly big muscle and it has different actions. Most people, it's synonymous with the upper trap. Yeah. The upper trap elevates the scapula and the shoulder girdle. So you should do shrugs. Like that, that's it. Shrugs. Like that is the action of the traps. You can do upright rows and whatever else if you want, but if you want to isolate the traps, just shrug.
And how many sets and reps would you recommend?
Look, this is where, I will probably get pedantic and push back. It's all in combination with everything else, we can only handle a total volume. If you just wanted to build massive traps, man, you could probably do 30 sets of shrugs a week. But you're not going to be able to do 30 sets of shrugs a week if you also want to build your chest, your delts, your arms, your legs, whatever. There are studies done on the quads, what is the optimal amount of sets for your quads, and it's something like 50 working sets per week. That's an obscene amount. Yeah. But that's isolating the quads. You're just doing quads and a little bit of hamstring work. It's completely ignoring the rest of the body. So there's the total cumulative load that the body can handle and the sort of systemic stress that's taking place. So you have to take that into consideration. If you're going to bring up your traps, you probably need to be doing 9 or 10 sets a week at least. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And all right, so 9. But let's say I've gone in tonight. I'm going to do traps. You told me to do shrugs. What is it? 3 sets of 10, 3 sets of 20, 3 sets of 15. Come on.
Yeah, from what we know, the rep range is about 6 to 30. So long as you work in the 6 to 30 rep range, as long as you get very, very close to failure, 1 or 2 reps short of failure or to failure, you've done your job in stimulating the muscle, and there's not that much difference between those particular rep ranges. You can get a little bit more nuancy, and then, this one, lower rep range, more mechanical tension, higher rep range, more metabolic stress, cellular swelling, all that sort of stuff. But the reality is all the studies show that there's a very broad rep range you can work within, and the most important thing is proximity to failure. Train it hard.
Wow. Okay. Train it hard. Delts, side delts.
Side delts are just side raise variations. It just has to be that is the job of it. Abduct at the shoulder.
Reps on their sets.
It's all going to be the same. Every answer, it's going to be the same for everybody. But Steve, I apologize, but that's all right. That's the reality.
You're a tough coach, mate.
What you want is the maximum amount of volume that you can recover from, and you want to take every working set close to failure. That's where the variance comes in, and that's where good programming and coaching comes in. Because we've got to take into consideration everything. How good is your recovery? How good's your sleep? How good's your nutrition? Are you taking steroids? All these things will affect your recovery. That will determine the total volume that you can handle. And then you have to distribute that volume around the body and prioritize the body parts you need to bring up. So you can't specialize on everything at once. You have to sit some things back down at maintenance levels and bring up particular body parts. That's what we did with Reggie. He was training delts every single workout for a while there because we were just we're just going to pour an enormous amount of volume into them and just try and get a response that we've never had before. And it worked quite well.
All right. Then what about front delts?
Front delts, look, I don't think you need a great deal of isolation movements for front delts. I think when you're chest pressing and shoulder pressing, you've probably done enough for them. Look, if I've got a particular individual, their front delts are lacking, I might throw in an additional front raise. But in most instances, they're just doing 1 or 2 overhead pressing movements, per week, as well as chest pressing, and that's enough.
Yeah, I agree. Rear delts?
Rear delts are a tricky one. Again, they do get some stimulus from rowing and things like that, but I think they do benefit from an isolation movement. So again, we're just talking a rear fly. Whether you get better engagement on a pec deck or a cable, as a general rule, I would prefer that to free weight. And the reason behind that is that it's loading the rear delt throughout the entire range of motion, whereas when you're doing a dumbbell rear fly, you're mostly getting the resistance in the contracted position and not in the lengthened position. And all the studies on hypertrophy show that it's a superior exercise when you can load it in the lengthened position. So I would prefer a cable or a pec deck on which to train the rear delts.
Okay, back. Just the general back. I'm not going to go through the whole back.
Yeah, well, that's an important part of it, because we can work on the lats, we can work on the rhomboids and lower traps and things like that. So if I was to do one movement, I'd probably pick a row over a pull down variation, just because you can hit the lats and you can get that scapular retraction at the same time and hit those other muscle groups. So, but whether it's a chest supported row or something like that, these days there's a coin that I think it was Dr. Mike Israel coin. It's that the stimulus to fatigue ratio. So you want to use an exercise which creates a great stimulus and then minimal fatigue. So because what that does is allow you to accrue more volume, and more volume is beneficial for muscle growth. But the reality is, I believe that can create a fairly dysfunctional athlete. Like a bent over barbell row, yeah, sure, it creates a lot of stimulus, but it also creates a lot of fatigue. So it sort of goes against it. But what it does do is it teaches your body how to move as a synchronized unit. You learn how to brace and control the posture of the spine, and you learn how to incorporate a whole lot of body parts at once. And I think that has merit from an injury prevention standpoint. So I think a lot of people are going too far towards isolated movements, and they're ignoring those free weight meat and potato movements. So I've still got a little bit of an old school philosophy there. But I would take if we're talking general back, I probably would take like a bent over a row or a seated cable row where you have to brace and support yourself, because at least that way you're working the spinal erectors as well as the lats, as well as the lower traps and rhomboids and things like that.
What I haven't done for a while, which I haven't seen as well in the gym that much, is dumbbell bent over rows, single arm. Not many people doing those.
No,
they were massive back in the day, man. I mean, Jesus Christ, that was getting the strap in as well and just pulling it back.
I used to love that movement.
Yeah, that was an amazing movement, man. That was not seen that much these days. Chest,
I would go with a dumbbell pressing variation, or maybe a machine pressing variation. But what we want to do is get very, very deep into the movement. So that's, again, that stretch position is the most valuable in terms of stimulating hypertrophy. So I think a dumbbell or a machine could be superior depending on the machine setup, because you should be able to get a maximum range of motion and load that muscle in its lengthened position. And I've brought up a lot of weak chests with that approach. I think we've focused too much on heavy weight and barbell movements because it made Arnold's chest spectacular or Lee Haney's chest spectacular.
What happened to bench press? What happened to the barbell? Everyone bags the poor thing. It still sits there quietly in the gym collecting dust.
It has been demonized a bit, hasn't it? And the
you know what?
reality
And I'll tell you something as well. Just hear me out. Sorry, sorry if I sounded rude then. But what I'm trying to say is, if you look at fucking Lee Haney's chest and you look at fucking Arnold's chest, when I look at Olympians today, they don't have these chests that they had back in the 90s and 80s, man. Everyone had, if the chest wasn't as big as your back, you weren't a bodybuilder. Now everyone's got these little chest things going on. I'm thinking it's because no one's bench pressing the barbell anymore.
Man, look, I was going to say the exact same thing. Of all the body parts that have progressed over the years, the chest has progressed the least.
Yeah.
Or it has even potentially regressed.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think there might be some merit to getting under those heavy free weights and moving them around. But I think it's probably the risk to reward factor. A lot of torn pecs and a lot of shoulder injuries have taken place on the bench, and that's scared some people off. But I still think it's a good movement if you know how to perform it correctly. And I think it can certainly build a big chest.
I don't know, mate. When I look back at the guys in the past, big fucking just, mate, the chest was dominated over the shoulders. It was just, it was like as big as your back. And when I look at them and they do that side pose, and I don't see it today. And I'm thinking, could you go all on dumbbells, guys? Everyone's on the dumbbells.
Yeah, no, you could have something there.
I could have something there. Bicep.
The bicep, again, like I would opt for probably an incline dumbbell curl or a preacher curl or something where, again, you're loading it in the lengthened position. But it's a fairly straightforward muscle group to train. It flexes at the elbow. So flex at the elbow under load and you should be fine.
Tricep,
again, like if we're going, like a lengthened position, some sort of overhead movement might be superior because of the long head crosses the shoulder joint, and when you get your arm up above your head, you can stretch it out a little bit more. So I'd probably lean towards that over a push down variation. But there's merits to everything. If I had to pick one, I'd pick overhead extension.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what I've discovered again, because I'm trying not to be as lazy, which is the bend over rows, which I spoke to you about with the dumbbells, which I haven't actually done much of, but tricep kickbacks.
Oh yeah.
Man, tell you what, just go to failure on those and you think you got the biggest triceps in the gym, only because you feel it.
Yeah. 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 Exactly right. That's it.
Oh, that one is a smash. That one, it's a favorite for me at the moment. When I feel like my arms aren't big, I just hit that and I've got big arms.
Nice.
Or I just feel it. It's not so much about knowing they're big, but man, those kickbacks were amazing, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. No, if you want to feel your triceps burn, absolutely throw some kickbacks in it.
Yeah. Because like I said, I'm hardly seeing a lot of this stuff at the moment, but anyway, let's talk about it. Forearms. Do you track forearms?
No, look, I remember.
That was big in the 90s, man, 80s, and I still do forearms, mate. I don't know why I have to.
Yeah, I don't. I once said, all right, I'm doing forearms. I'm going to bring my forearms up. And I did 6 months where I trained forearms 3 times a week with, wrist curls and reverse wrist curls and whatever. And at the end of that 6 months, I just saw no difference whatsoever. And I was just like, well, stuff this. I'm not going to bother. I'll just grip the weights hard and do some heavy rows and some curls and whatever else. I guess I do like to do a hammer curl or a reverse curl so you can get those forearm extensors as much as the flexors. But I think the flexors get enough work just from gripping the weights, to be honest.
Yeah, no, but I look quietly. I do the forearms, but what I've decided to do is, so no one's watching, I just do, I hold them and I just reverse the curl up, and I just go to failure, and I just put them away, and I do that one to failure. I put them away, and I said, I haven't done forearms, guys. No one's seen this happen. I just quietly. Abs.
Look, I like a leg raise variation on an incline bench. That's my favorite one. But the component of the abs is the aesthetic component, and then there's the functional component. From a lifting perspective, it's probably in your best interest to perform some sort of planking movement, because that'll teach you to brace and control the spine and give you that sort of core endurance and stability for the other lifts. But from an aesthetic standpoint, you want to stretch and contract it just like any other muscle. So I like an incline leg raise.
Now, I don't know if this is a true rumor. Maybe I've made it up. But I heard overtraining the abs can lengthen the waist. Like sometimes, I think I spoke to the Terminator, Patrick, that it doesn't, I think they do something different for abs because of trying to keep a smaller waist, which was similar to the 80s and 90s of these bodybuilders to have this small waist, because waists got really big at one stage.
Yeah.
Is this true, this myth that I'm making, or
I don't think you can. I think it'd be very, very difficult to overdevelop the rectus abdominal muscles. I think obviously obliques and things like that, you want to avoid heavy side bends and things of that nature, because we want to keep their development to the minimum. But it's going to be pretty hard to thicken up the abdominal wall to the point where you're going to distend your waist, I think. Okay. So I don't think.
So you're kind of saying it's genetic. If you've got a big waist, it's
genetic, or it's related to the copious amounts of insulin and growth hormone and 6,000 calories you're pounding in. I think that's the reason why most waists blow out.
I think Jason Quinn, Men's Physique Olympian that we had on here, he said abs is all in the kitchen. He said something about the abs is all in the kitchen. So maybe you're right. Maybe it's the calories. I don't know. Quads.
Quads, again, back in the day, I would have just said barbell squat.
What happened to that? That's dying in the ass too.
Stimulus to fatigue ratio. It's very, very taxing. You can only do so many barbell squats. And if you've gone really hard on the barbell squats, there's only so much you can do in the rest of the workout because you're pretty much shattered. So these days, people... Yeah, well, is it? What if we could do, get 90% of the benefit with the pendulum squat or hack squat, and then we could go on and we could still go hard on the leg press and get some hard leg extensions in there. So
I'm with you. All right.
Yeah. So these days,
I'm no coach, by the way.
Yeah. Look, it's been a hard shift for me as well, because I came from the bro science and now I'm in the legitimate science. And look, I still think barbell squats, again, have some merit because it teaches your body to move as a system, and you're hitting a lot of muscle in a short space of time. So if you're limited on time, get under that barbell, because you're going to get adductors, glutes, erectors, quads, the works. Whereas with a hack squat, you're going to take out the erectors, the adductors maybe less so, and you're just going to stimulate the quads more. But if we're looking purely at the quads, it's probably a pendulum or a hack squat where you can go ass to grass.
Okay, last one. Hammies.
Hammies, look, it would probably be like a seated leg curl, which again, I never thought I'd say that, but a seated leg curl has been shown to be superior to a lying leg curl just because it puts that muscle in a more lengthened position under load. So
what about standing leg curl?
Standing leg curl, less so because it's more focused on the contraction. The load is at the highest in the shortened position, and that just doesn't, it's just not quite as effective as when it's in the lengthened position. Now, having said that, like, there's still merit to it. You know, like there is value to the contracted position. You can accumulate more volume within the muscle, and it is generally not as fatiguing again. So there's merits to both, but if you pick one or the other, yeah, seated leg curl should technically be superior.
Okay, calves.
Calves, again, just a standing calf raise, or even or again, slightly superior again would be like a calf press or a donkey calf raise, because the gastrocs cross the knee joint, and when the hamstring's in a stretch position, it slightly lengthens it some more. But a straight-legged calf raise variation is slightly superior to a bent-legged version because the gastrocs can contract a little bit more effectively, and it's not just all on the soleus muscle.
What happened to the donkey press, mate?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
Can't find them these days. Maybe it's too big of a machine.
Maybe very effective exercise as well.
Remember donkey press?
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
Sometimes you even got your girlfriend to sit on you when you needed to do a donkey press. Couldn't find one. You go, mate, come here, sit on my back, and I'm going to do a donkey press.
Yeah, it was great.
What about tibialis?
Tibialis, well, there's really only one movement that you can perform, and that is, I think it's called a tibialis raise, isn't it? Where you just dorsiflex your foot under load. There are specific machines that I've seen. I don't want to have them in my gym. So if you want to do it in my gym, you do a lying leg curl, but you're the other way around, and you sort of bring your toes up with the little foot pads. I used to do it back in the day.
Well, the gym where I go to, Hardcore in Carlton, and we give them a plug, they've got a tibialis little machine there, which works wonders. Yeah. What about glutes?
I was surprised. Like, glutes is the body part that I get asked about the most, training female clients. I personally,
that's the only reason they go to the gym, mate. That's the only reason they get memberships. If you've got glute machines, you're going to be rich.
100%. It's a necessity in a commercial gym these days. I would still stay away from the glute machines, and I would go with something like a deficit dumbbell back lunge. How's that for an obscure movement?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, of course. Anything going backwards, that kind of movement is just like squatting the barbell on your shoulders, because you're using a lot of your body weight as well on top of that.
You're using your body weight, you can load it, you can contralaterally load it, which creates an internal rotation force of the hip. You externally rotate against that. That's the role of the glutes. You get better glute engagement. You can load them in a lengthened position. You can do all of it. So, yeah, I love that movement for glutes.
Well, mate, we've come to the end of the podcast. I mean, it's been great. I hope, of course, you've enjoyed it. No, I hope it's been more than you expected. Oh, this is your opportunity. Please tell us, where can everyone find you? Website, socials, in person? I guess, here's your moment to broadcast it.
I want everyone to find me and send inquiries and things through the Team Goble Instagram page. That's the main one. If you're interested in being a client, there's a little link at the top there where you can click the link, and you'll send in a little application form. At the moment, I do have a waiting list. I can only take on so many clients, or I'm trying to expand that. I do have other coaches that work with me now that I have great confidence in. So if you can't work with me, there'll be the opportunities to work with the other coaches. But that's the best way to reach me. I am based out of Doherty's Gym in Brunswick, but I am pretty much an exclusive online trainer now. So I just sort of hang out here and talk shit with Tony Doherty and get away from my home. So I've got a little office, a little workspace where I can be more focused. But the reality is that it all happens online these days.
Okay, wonderful. Well, I just want to say thank you for your time, man. And honestly, our quality here at Muscle Talks, but also you guys, the coaches and the athletes and the sport itself. Like I said, I can see it just going from strength to strength. People, like I said, they're looking amazing. And I think, like you said, I think it's to do with the team. I think the teams, and it's good to have we all love a team sport. We don't want to be, it's an individual, but we do like to high five someone, not high five the air. So keep up the good work. I hope to meet you in person. I'm sure we will. Sure. We've got, yeah, we've got Reggie next year and a few others. So I'm looking forward to seeing these guys, and Reggie being the first for his culture and his race to get a pro card. That's his goal.
Mhm.
So, and from what I've seen lately, man, I don't know. I think he's going to do it.
He's going to be very hard to beat. I'm sure of that.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate your time.
It's been a pleasure.